Hey guys, Jeff Naturally Caffeinated here. Today I want to talk about the 2017 Beta Cross Trainer and the modifications that I've made to this bike and why I made those modifications. So out of the box, this thing is a great bike. This thing is great for hard enduro. This is great for single track. It is a wonderful bike and it has a really nice smooth linear power in its factory form. But there are a few changes that can be made and should be made on this bike. And the first place is the front end. So the first modification I made on this bike was on the brakes. So these brake pads from factory are really sensitive and real grabby. And so if you grab a handful of brake going downhill with the factory brake pads, you could potentially dive the front end and wash out and, get ejected from the bike, which has happened to me on a few occasions. And I thought first it was me. Thought it was me as a rider, but then as I continued to ride the bike, I noticed it was a consistent pattern. So I just went to Rocky Mountain ATV. I got a set of aftermarket pads, made a huge difference. It really stopped that real grabby feel, and it really smoothed out the braking on the front end of this bike. So the next modification I made to the bike was with these forks. Now, you could spend thousands of dollars swapping out forks and triple clamps and buying cartridges and springs and all that stuff. I didn't want to spend all that money, but I did want to find a way to change the front end from this real bad pogo sticking effect when you're at speed and you're hitting whoops and, when you're in a creek bed and you're going over rocks pretty quick. This thing tends to jump around quite a bit. So in order to slow down the action of the forks, I went with a 20 weight oil. So from factory, it comes with a 5 weight. That 20 weight oil made a huge difference. Hands down, it slowed down the action of the forks. It's still very safe and very capable in the hard enduro and the single track stuff. So making that modification has made a huge difference for me. If you think you have that pogo stick effect and you want to make a modification, go the cheap route. Don't spend thousands of dollars. Give it a try. 20 weight fork oil makes a huge difference on this bike. So the next modification I did on this bike was I removed the steering stops on both sides of the frame. And what that did was it gave me a much better turning radius in the slow technical stuff. So it's a very simple mod. You just pull them out, grab some RTV silicone, and fill those holes up so you don't have water and corrosion happening in those open areas of the frame. So, all right, moving on to the engine. Now this is a great place to work on this bike. So now, like I said, this bike is an excellent bike. It has really nice linear power and it's fun. It's still a 300cc bike, but I've owned some dirt bikes in the past that have been a lot more exciting than this one, and I enjoy that power and that zap of the throttle. And so when I think about power, I'm thinking about my KX250, my CRF 450 RR, my WR. I mean, I've had a lot of bikes and they've been fun. This bike is a great bike, but the modifications I'm going to tell you about right now have made this bike even funner for me personally and the way I ride. So the first thing I did was I swapped out the header pipe. I went with a gnarly pipe and it woke the bike up a little bit. And then what I did was I shaved the head 30 thousandths and that woke up the bike considerably. And then the next modification I did was I removed this plate, the spacer behind this plate here. And with those 3 modifications, this bike has come to life. Now the engine on this bike is very similar to the 300RR. They're not identical, but they're very close. And with the header pipe change, with the higher compression head, and this spacer removal here, it is almost a 300RR. Do I need that power? Not necessarily, but I enjoy that power. And so let me just tell you, those modifications on the engine haven't drastically changed the reliability. Actually, it hasn't changed the reliability at all. I have had 0 problems with this bike. The fuel economy has remained similar. I can go on a 4 to 6 hour ride and this tank will not go dry on me. And so I've increased the power, I've increased the throttle response, and I believe I've increased the mid-range to top end on this bike. And I gotta tell you, this thing could go from mile to mile with a crack of that throttle, and it has been fun. But it still remains very linear in the power. So as I roll the power on, it's nice and smooth. So if you're looking for a little bit of excitement and you want to do it in an inexpensive way, you know, you could shave the head 30 thousandths, you can put on the 300RR pipe, and then you can remove the spacer here and it'll wake the bike up. But again, it's still very manageable. All right, let's talk about the clutch. So I replaced the stock clutch lever with the Midwest Mountain Engineering lever, and I love it. It made the pull a little bit lighter. The springs on this clutch here, there's only 4 springs on this bike. On the 300RR and the 300RR Race Edition, they have 6 springs, and so the clutch pull on those bikes are a little bit lighter. So the first mod I did was the brake lever. The second mod I did was the clutch slave cylinder. I swapped it out for a brand new 2013 350RR Race Edition slave cylinder, and it just took the bike to the next level. So my clutch pull is real smooth and it's a lot lighter than the stock one. So that's another mod you can make to this bike to make it a little bit more enjoyable on those longer technical rides where you're modulating the clutch a ton. Okay, the next mod I made is simply swapping out the tires. So in the rear, I use an IRC VE33, great tire. I was running a gummy on there, but I was chewing those up, and that wasn't because of the tire or the terrain. It was because I didn't understand clutch modulation and power control or power management on the bike. But this VE33, this is an incredible tire. It's a long-lasting tire. It's very durable, and it gives you great traction. And so along with that tire, I've put in moose bibs. So I've got a medium moose bib in the rear and a medium moose bib in the front here. And those are great. They're very reliable. They give you great traction, and they last a long time. They really do. So the only other thing I've done to the bike, is the Lectron carburetor. Man. So I'm riding out here in Utah. I run from 6,000 feet to 10,500 feet. And this Lectron carburetor makes a huge difference. I don't have to jet the bike at all. Lectron does it all for you. I mean, it is an amazing carburetor. Very smooth throttle response. It really has helped with the fuel efficiency, and it just makes the bike feel real crisp on the trail. And so with those modifications, I feel like I've improved the performance of the bike, but I haven't lost any reliability. And it certainly has made this bike a lot more enjoyable to ride. I gotta say, I have not dumped a ton of money into this bike at all. The header pipe was about 240 bucks. Shaving the head was $60. Removing the spacer was free. The brake pads were 24 bucks. The fork oil was, I think it was right around 20 bucks. And you know, the tires are about 100 bucks. I think that's pretty normal for most tires. And so with those modifications, I have really enjoyed this bike. And I do enjoy the increased acceleration and power that I feel with these modifications. So again, leave in the comments what you've done to your bikes and what you've enjoyed on your ride. And we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.